okay, so this asset has this much risk, and across the board, I have an average risk of this much. And they got some nice visualizations so they can see, what is the riskiest thing, where's my risk coming from, all kinds of stuff. And kind of gotten, the word risk has been used quite a lot for the last year or so that we've been working on this.
Welcome back to OT After Hours, a podcast about industrial cybersecurity, why it matters, and all of the challenges that it presents. And I have to apologize because this episode is late. It's a month late. It was supposed to be the September episode, and we actually had a completely different topic lined up. And then Lance made a suggestion because, as he will explain in the episode, the Verve development gathering took place toward the end of September, and it presented a unique opportunity to get a bunch of people together live with some microphones to have a chat. Now, I wasn't able to make the dev gathering, so this was all Lance handling the recording, and he did remarkably well. Thank you so much, sir. But it ended up being a round table discussion between him, Lance Lamont, Tyler Bergman, who's also been on the show before, and Richard Melito, one of our developers here at Verve Industrial. And the nature of the conversation was such that it actually resulted in us having to embargo the episode for a while because we had to wait until version 1.42 of the Verve software released, which took place a little over a week ago now. So, much belatedly, here is the September episode, now the October episode, of OT After Hours.
This is Lance Lamont. We are at the Verve Dev Gathering. This is VDG, and we are attempting to do let's call it live recorded session of OT After Hours. So we're in one of the conference rooms here in Madison, Wisconsin. We do this gathering fairly often, about annually now, and we're learning and having all sorts of fun. So once again, Lance Lamont and
Tyler Bergman right here, as always.
All right. Tyler is here. Go ahead.
And I'm Richard Melito. I have not been on the show before. I'm one of the devs that works on making VAM, or I guess VSC, as it's more commonly known.
Verve Security Center, yep. So we didn't really have a specific topic in mind for today, so we're just going to see where things go. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Verve Dev Gathering in general, what we do, the intent, a little bit about our culture and why we find value in the Verve Dev Gathering. But Richard, since you're our apparently special guest today, I think we'll want to get a little bit into the VSC and maybe talk about some of the stuff that you've done in the past and see where things go from there.
Okay.
So, Verve Dev Gathering. So we get together annually for this, and it's only been happening for about, I think this is our third one now. But Fourth?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. So first one was here in Madison. Second one was in Madison. Then we went over to the Rockwell headquarters in Milwaukee. Yep. And now we're back in Madison again. It's a little bit bittersweet to be in Madison this year because it's a bit of a farewell to the office. We've decided that because we have such a great crew all over the country that we didn't need to keep just this office. So it's been pretty good. Got a little adjustment going on. Yep. Whoop, there we go. Other way.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
No worries. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been very interesting. So I was there last year when we were getting acclimated to the Rockwell ecosystem, kind of learning some of the different things going on with Rockwell and those folks. They had very good little breakout sessions for some of the persona building and things of that nature. I thought was just very much needed. And we haven't really done much to that level out there because we've just been more concentrated on either delivery or like the developer sense out there with the things that they're doing. And it's very interesting, the dynamic coming to the VGGs, because they have these hackathons of coming up with the different ideas of something that could be more product focused, that they can get together and just really come to a congealed ideas around for different items out there. So I don't know, maybe talk about some of the things we have going on out there, like asset discovery.
Sure.
As far as trying to improve that structure out there and doing some like normalization on properties too as well. There's been a lot of trying to strike a balance of things and what we talk about. So I guess, Richard, I'd like to get your take on what do you think as far as the VDGs we've had, and what is some of the valuable output that's come from some of them?
Well, specifically, the hackathons have not always been part of VDG. And I'd say the most important part of Verve Dev Gathering is just getting to, actually see and meet and talk to these people in person, because we're a remote-first company. At least the Verve section of Rockwell is a remote-first org. And yeah, I think the socialization and just getting to actually know each other in person aspect is the most important part. And I find that really valuable. I think a lot of people do. I imagine Josh and the higher-ups do, and that's why they pay however many dollars per year this costs.
Yeah, it's definitely been identified as valuable for us to be able to get to know each other, for us to be able to talk with each other and see each other in person, go out, have a social time, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. The hackathons themselves, which is... It's actually only our second year doing a hackathon at VDG, and then we, over the summer this year, also did a virtual hackathon too. This is our third hackathon, and the hackathons themselves are certainly valuable as... They're sort of valuable in two separate but complementary ways. One is you might get actually something useful out of it, of having people, spend the time to look into something they don't usually. There might be some actual tangible improvement that comes out of it. We've had a few things come out of that, mostly dev-focused, I think. I don't think we've really released anything based on a hackathon. But the other aspect is it's just, as developers, good to have the mental freedom to take a break from the usual things we work on and just kind of throw ourselves into some different problem. Both there's the actual just enjoyment of the creative pursuit, but then also there's the just very valuable professional aspect of getting to look at a part of the application, part of the code base, some technology that you're not really familiar with otherwise, and the other people that you interact with, other team members, other developers, and even non-developers that you typically don't. So that's just a great team building aspect there.
I definitely agree. I found it to be very, very valuable for us to be able to build our network within the organization.
Yeah.
Being remote, it can be really difficult to go across those lines to figure out how to just connect with somebody new. How do I connect with somebody on the VSC team? I don't do anything with VSC. Why would Richard and I have a conversation? And now, because of the hackathon, because we purposefully put together teams that are not our normal teams, it means that we have that opportunity to interact. And in the future, when I have a question related to VSC, now I have somebody that I can connect with. And that's been super valuable to me.
Yeah, and from the delivery side, it's always interesting to get the take of the developers too, because it's an interesting dynamic, because we're talking with folks that normally don't have any type of interaction with the customer facing. And, there are some use cases where we're out there that, the developers aren't just explicitly aware of. So it's trying to do some of the workflows and things of that nature going through to maybe shine some of that light out there and kind of spark some of those aha moments, right? Which is really, really useful, because then that kind of helps get everybody on the same page as far as, what people out there in the real world are operating the software and things of that nature, trying to get that consensus of use type of situation, which is not always, case for case stayed out there. So it makes it really, really fun and exciting to really get that out there.
Right. Yeah.
So what other fun and exciting stuff we got lined up for VDG?
Well, I was part of the planning committee. I think Kyle was even calling it the party planning committee when it came to VDG. So obviously we're really intent on that social networking aspect. And we've got talks from Obviously Josh Helling gave the talk yesterday morning to sort of kick things off, as well as Kyle. Between the two of them, they really sort of kicked off the intent of the dev gathering here. But one of the things they emphasized is we're not doing a lot of talks here. We're doing a lot of team building, a lot of networking, a lot of hackathons. We're doing the bar camp sessions, which we're recording during one of those. So a lot of it is just building our sense of community within the group. This morning, we had a wonderful presentation by Rick Kahn, one of our team that travels the world and presents our product to so many potential customers, so sales. Mm-hmm. And he just really gave us some wonderful insight and, once again, some depth to our knowledge on what we try to sell and how we win. And that really helped. I got numerous messages from my team members going, "Oh, wow, context. Wow, they recognized us. Wow, the things we're working on actually help our customers. That's amazing." So really trying to tie the whole chain from what our customers want to what we do, because Richard, you and I both work sort of in this front end sort of stuff where we're doing things, we're making new stuff that doesn't exist until we create it. And it's really nice to know that the things we put our effort into actualize into things of value. So it's really, really great for that to build our confidence that the whole organization is working towards what our customers need. Past that, we've got the bar camp sessions. We've got another talk tomorrow from Sanjay, who's going to be talking, I think he said, on delivery, so sort of the next step on our whole process of interacting with our customers and our vendors as well in this case. So that's going to be really, really fascinating. Our bar camp sessions every year are really interesting. I was told that I need to keep my bar camp sessions work related. That's why I'm doing this podcast, because that's, of course, what I normally do. And then we have a bunch of different fascinating sessions that are happening. We've got one on growing plants hydroponically. We have another person that is Will, one of my team members, who's fascinated in taking photos. And so he's just offering to do headshots and pictures for people. We've got another one on mesh networking. So tangentially related to business as I guess I would describe it, but at the same time, it's valuable because people get to know each other, people get to understand each other, and that can be super valuable.
Well, building some of those presentation skills too.
Oh yeah,
which is super valuable. You got to pull that back into the business senses. You got to get people into a specific comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of dual focus, allowing folks to talk about what they know and love, and kind of build upon some of that presentation skills. Then they can start branching out and building some more epiphanies around some things that they maybe not normally talk about too.
Yep. Absolutely.
So it's all about really building the team and bringing them together and getting them comfortable with each other too, which is just phenomenal. We've got all the team leads from the delivery here, and it's we're so spread out too. So it's we don't get the opportunity to be able to get together until we come see you guys, and we just love the interaction with you guys too. Last night we went out and played a couple of games of pool. Hell, I haven't played pool in 15 years, so that was pretty interesting deal. And so we're in Wisconsin, a lot of craft beers and different cheeses and things of that nature. So it's always a great area too.
Yeah, it's been. I'm a Wisconsin native. I've been here since I was 4, so I don't remember not living in Wisconsin. But it's been a great location, and the climate in the 70s and stuff right now is just about perfect. So in really good shape.
I want to build on something Lance said earlier. The whole thing about having Rick talk about the customer wins, the things that they like. That is something that we as developers, we really love hearing about, is actually learning that people like the things that we make, and I'd love to get more of that. And I think that's something that a lot of companies probably struggle with, because they very wisely separate development from customers, because you don't want you need a layer of separation there, because developers can accidentally say something they're not supposed to customers, and then also customers can, maybe sway developers wrong, whatever. But
I think we got our next podcast topic right there.
Exactly.
But I know the handful of times when I have heard like, people really love this, and this is going well. That always really means a lot to know that the work is actually being appreciated and helpful by someone. And I hope we do more of that. Again, that's just I think a common thing in companies in general is that
I've definitely found that the weeks after VDG, I'm always more energized. I'm always more. I've got that additional, the experience of VDG comes back with me, and it brings the team together. It re-emphasizes the value of the efforts I put in. And I don't know if there's any other thing that could be done that would make it better than something like VDG, the getting together in person. And to be honest, we're not doing our normal day jobs at all during this week. If we looked at it from purely did these people put in 40 hours of coding this week? The answer is absolutely not. I didn't even turn my computer on yesterday. But the long-term value that I think it brings to us organizationally, that it brings to myself, to other team members, from I am buying into Verve. I am buying into being a part of this organization again. It brings so much to me in that context. And, next week I will have better focus on what I need to do because I've had the experience of this week. I've spent that time building this network back up, which, over the year will, droop a little bit, but by building it back up again, I'm re-energized. I'm going to be able to do more things, and hopefully I'll come back with more connections, and I'll be able to build the network even better next year and even better. And so I find it to be super valuable.
Hey, Richard, so tell us a little bit more about yourself and, where you're from, what originally brought you to Verve, things of that nature.
From Northern Virginia, then moved to Colorado for 7-ish years, and now living in Silver Spring, Maryland. I have the sort of slightly non-traditional computer science background, which is very common in a lot of places, but especially, I guess, here in Verve, where I studied mechanical engineering in school, and then barely used my degree. My first job, I did a good deal of programming in college, so I had programming experience, and then trying to get my first job, and it's much easier to get a programming job than to get a mechanical engineer job. At least it was at the time anyway. So started off as a software engineer, switched jobs. That was I was working on a mine planning software. So where to dig, where the ore is, that kind of thing. And then so that was my first job. Second job was a medical device company. I guess, is it okay if I name drop?
In a positive context, obviously.
Company's Ex Vivo Perfusion. And they make systems to keep transplant organs alive, and specifically to the machine I worked on is called the Ex Vivo Perfusion System, the XPS, and it is meant to take what are called marginal lungs. So basically, when they have donor lungs, they fall into 3 buckets of that's a beautiful lung, transplant it now, put it in person. Marginal is and then trash. And prior to the XPS, the marginal ones were all still trash because they didn't know. It's a big question mark, and no one's going to risk their career and someone's life on a question mark. So with the XPS, they're able to take marginal lungs and evaluate them to see, hey, are these actually good? Do they act as lungs? The machine sort of acts as a kind of a simulated human where they take the lungs, they put air into them, they run, it's called perfusate through it, so not blood, but something blood-like, and they mix blood gases to check like are the lungs, removing CO2 from the perfusate and adding oxygen in. They do that for several hours, and at the end of it, about half the time they would throw the lungs away, and the other half of the time they would, I think, actually use them. So that was very interesting work, and I did get to use my degree some during COVID. I switched to a different company that makes laser patient alignment systems. So when someone goes into MRI or radiotherapy machine, this is at least a thing that can happen anyway. I don't know if it happens all the time, but have a laser grid projected onto them to essentially unify the coordinate system between different machines and reconcile that with the reality of meat space. So this is especially important when you have specifically the example of a radiotherapy machine, because if the MRI detects cancerous tumor at position, 59, 83, 200, that might make some perfect sense to the MRI's computer. Got some interesting sound background. Anyway, might make perfect sense to the MRI's computer, but those coordinates don't really mean much outside of it. So then when you go to the radiotherapy machine, you need to be able to translate that coordinate into, this is this particular spot on the person, which is where we want to send the radiation so that we actually help them instead of just killing them.
That's important.
Yeah, it's kind of the whole point of the thing. So, that was a kind of a cool, especially weird job though, because since it was entirely remote, I had one of those laser projectors in my house. It's about 6 feet tall, and it shoots a laser grid, it's basically just a crosshair, but a large crosshair, and it moves around. So that's kind of cool. And what I was doing on that specifically, because I only did the one project because I was only there for like 8 months. But I was making a tool. To improve the calibration of those machines during production. So I said that it projects a crosshair. They want it to get the angle between the up-down laser and the side-to-side laser, vertical and horizontal, to as close to 9 degrees as possible. And like kind of previously, that was just a lot of like a person slightly tweaking it and being like, I think it's okay. I think it looks okay. So I used a computer vision application. So I made a little Windows desktop program that was talking to an Arduino camera, and put these what are called Ruko markers on the wall, and it was able to calculate the angle in real time, so that a calibrator person can see exactly the number. And that was a really fun, really cool project. I unfortunately, the one time I actually met the people in person so they could try it out, they were like, holy crap, this is cool. Unfortunately, their side was not ready to use it. And yeah, just they were just busy working on other stuff. They weren't ready to integrate into the processes. And then I left the company shortly after. So I don't know if it ever got in use. I hope it did. It was really cool. But yeah, anyway, after that I joined Verve, and it's been really good. That was I've been at Verve about close to 4 years. Close to 4 years now.
So is there any excitement in the discovery of Verve? Did you apply to Verve? For me, I got a random call out of the blue from Bill saying, we want you. And I said, are you sure? But how was your experience joining Verve?
So I've been interested in leaving the company that I was at. They had recently gotten bought, and they'd actually gotten bought before I joined even, but it was early stages. However, by the time I was on the way out, they were finalizing, and I was like, I don't like the sound of any of this. Anyway, so I was applying to stuff on, the usual application things. Applied to Verve on LinkedIn, and it was one of those, I don't know, you've gone through the modern application process, which I hear has only gotten worse. But it was a lot of like, okay, that sounds fine, whatever. And it had the LinkedIn Easy Apply, so I pressed and kind of moved on. And then I kind of forgot a little bit about it because again, I was just kind of applying to lots of different things, had a few bites here and there, and then Kyle, my now boss, she reached out about the application, and I think I was more interested in other things at the time that I was already getting some feedback on. And honestly, the sound of Verve, it didn't sound that exciting. I was more interested in the other things. And then she sent a follow-up message like, "Are you still interested?" And I was like, "Yes, I am. Sorry." And then the other things, I think I can't remember what happened to them. But I wound up progressing through Verve, and I was like, "Oh, wait, this is actually really cool." I like it. I was actually slightly disinterested at first, and I'm glad I was open. I'm glad I took the chance.
Good.
Yeah.
Lance, the thing of it is I always find it interesting with the folks that we have, and they just have such a diverse background out there of real world experience of interacting with the real world, right? Mm-hmm. Because, we're in the operational technology space that deals with real world components, right? That interact with the real world. So it's a lot of these folks, they understand the implications of, software and hardware combinations that have implications in the real world, from a safety conscientious standpoint, things of that nature. So it's always interesting to hear about some of those backstories.
Oh, absolutely.
And how it just all jives in and just the general knowledge of it. Because it's a very distinct difference between the IT and the OT world.
Absolutely.
I know we still get a lot of banter about that. It's like, it's just the same stuff. It's like, I get that there's a lot of the componentry there that is, the majority the same.
Right.
But there are some real world repercussions that come out there in the OT. So it's trying to be that safe.
One of my friends at another company, a good friend, Matt Z, he coined a term for me, and I love the term, and it is software with consequences. And this was more in the embedded world, right? We were working on some embedded devices, and if that software goes off the rails, you have a physical problem. It's not just that the computer reboots. It is something physically has gone wrong, and there might be consequences to an operator of that item as well. And that software with consequences has always stuck in my mind as the sort of thing that is fascinating to me. But I think it really is what you're talking about. If we don't align that laser properly on that person, there's significant consequences. If we have an OT device that we interact with in such a way that it causes that device to crash, there are significant consequences. And so I think I hadn't even thought of it in that way, but I think you're absolutely right. We find a lot of people that recognize that we are writing software with consequences, mm-hmm. and that have experience with that world. We have to take this seriously because there are real potential repercussions of us not having success. And those repercussions aren't just, Mike over in sales needs to complain for 5 minutes because his computer is rebooting. Mike, I'm really sorry. I don't want your computer to reboot on you. It's my mistake. I'm so sorry. But we've got much more significant consequences, and we have people that recognize it. And that's really sort of cool.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's not even, I like the way you phrase that is the software for consequences, because not only could there be like a financial consequences to it because you're shutting down production or you're running a batch of processed materials or something of that nature, but there's also the safety concern on it too. So like if this device goes offline, what is it monitoring to could potentially damage your operations or cause potential harm to people too. So
right.
It's always interesting.
Absolutely. So, Richard, we distracted from your awesome story. Do you have anything else you'd like to share there?
I guess that's my background.
We're done.
I guess here at Verve, but I joined as a regular software engineer. That was also back when every software engineer had the title of software engineer. We didn't have senior or anything.
Even if you were leading people, you were a software engineer. Even if you were managing people, you were a software engineer.
That's probably true.
Yeah, I remember Matt Hickok now was software engineer.
And then there was... Yeah, there's that. And then I remember things were opening up, and Bill put out the announcement of return to office, which thankfully wouldn't apply to me because I didn't live anywhere near one of the offices. And then about 2 months later, Bill was gone, and Josh took over. And Josh was like, 100% remote, everyone. Yay! Yay! And that was, happy for me to hear, because it was like, okay, great. I'm not going to be pressured to move or anything. Joined what was at the time called the integrations team, working on... The integrations team is also the sort of mishmash team, because we maintained the what we call the integrations, which are things that allow VAM, VSC, whatever customers call it, to integrate with third-party applications. We also had other functionality in there through integrations, such as vulnerability detection and asset discovery, that are really core functionality of the application. They're implemented as integrations, but they're not really integrations. And then those are later split off into what we call modules. Those two in particular, asset discovery and vulnerability, the vulnerabilities are the main focus for my team now. Or rather, those are two things that are owned by my team, I should say.
Yeah. What about the end of life stuff? I know
that's owned by my team now too. It just didn't exist at the time. So joint integrations, worked on those things. We reorganized so that rather than having separate integrations and API and front end teams, we instead had what we call full stack teams, where we have teams of 4 or 5 people, or maybe I guess 3 to 5 people. Anyway, 4-ish people, and the expertise of the team ideally. You might have, someone from the former front-end team, someone from the former integrations team, the former API team. The idea being that you can do full stack development across the whole thing, just within one team, and then also ideally, over time, people would get more expertise with the different parts, and that has worked. We still. I don't think we have anyone who's fully full stack, but we definitely have more of that. More full stackishness than we used to. And we also established actual engineer levels. So I went from regular software engineer to senior software engineer and team lead. So I'm now lead of the what we call the VSC Earth team. Our main things are asset discovery and vulnerabilities and end of life data. Also the database importer module now, and the big thing that we'll hopefully release, I don't know, maybe by the time that this episode comes out.
It'll probably be out in a week or two.
Hopefully, if all goes well.
We'll just beep it out of the release. You can say it, and then we'll no.
It's more like the big flagship feature in the next VAM release, 1.42, is what we call customizable risk score. And that has been my team's pretty much sole focus for most of last year, to allow customers to define risk in a way that is customizable to them, that makes sense to them, to quantify risk, I should say, in a way that makes sense to them. So they can say, I value knowing whether or not something has backups. That's really important to me. I don't care so much about if something is on multiple networks, etc. So they can either turn that off or lower its weight, whatever. And at the end of it, have a number of, okay, so this asset has this much risk, and across the board, I have an average risk of this much. And they got some nice visualizations so they can see, what is the riskiest thing, where's my risk coming from, all kinds of stuff. And kind of gotten The word risk has been used quite a lot for the last year or so that we've been working on this.
What is that called? Semantic saturation or whatever, where it's just
broken record.
It no longer has meaning. The word risk is just there. And honestly, I think that's for our customers. They might even have that same problem. They hear the word risk so often, they probably don't even. It's just noise at this point. But
I heard Rick Kahn talking about the success story with one of our customers where they lowered their risk score from 90 to 60, high 90s to low 60s, and with the risk score that we helped them make. And I'm like, what is he talking about? That's not out yet. He must be talking about some other, or maybe the like old big JavaScript calculated property thing that he's talking about.
Yeah. Well, because I think Ryan Zahn was doing like that huge calculated property within reporting. So it was trying to get some similar functionality to what we were doing. That was just highly customized and just, I think it was a lot of functionality out there. And we saw that, that, hey, there could be some real value in this, being able to do the different scenarios for risk scoring and being able to adjust the weights on the fly and everything like that. Because that's what it comes down to is like they start building some of those scenarios around risk and then trying to define some of the different weighting and things of that nature to make it kind of clearly defined, like, well, what is important to us from a defined perspective, build the scenarios, and then that gets you kind of the surgical technique of what do we need to remediate.
Yeah. So I haven't looked at our risk score stuff at all. Obviously, I focus in different areas. Do we provide like default risk scores and then you can modify it from there? So it's pretty easy to start with it and then get closer to what you want?
Yes. We have, so we have what we call risk factors, where that's something that goes into the overall risk calculation. That could be, like I mentioned before, whether or not something is backed up. And those we ship with 48 built-in risk factors, and 11, I think, of them are enabled by default. So you upgrade to 1.42, and you'll see, you should see a risk score there, and you're then free to change it, to play with it, whatever you want. You're free to change the weightings of the individual risk factors, enable different ones that are disabled or disable ones that are already enabled. You can also customize a little bit of how each one is calculated. It kind of depends on the individual risk factor with like how much configuration is there. But that's the whole thing of, this has to be customizable, has to be like every customer is different. They treat things differently. That's part of why this has been such a big project that it's consumed so much of our time. Is like, for example, number of vulnerabilities, or like maybe to one customer they consider they have a zero vulnerability tolerance or something. So it's like they might say, if there's any vulnerabilities on an asset, then we want to give a really high risk score for that. Another customer, meanwhile, might be like, just let me know if there's 50 or something. And so they can tweak the numbers there to only give a high score if it's, if it's 50 or so, and it's lower scores going down. That's a kind of thing where, as developers, we have kind of no insight into how customers work. We get all this information like secondhand from either from Josh or from Kyle, Mick, or talking to people who talk to customers, or talking to people who talk to people who talk to customers. So that's information kind of trickles down to us, and we try to do something with it.
Nice.
I said earlier, in my 8-month tenure at my previous job, I was able to make this whole cool tool for calibrating the laser alignment system. And I did that alone. And I kind of look back and I'm like, wow, how did I do that so fast? I realized, this just kind of gets me thinking about software development in general. When you're starting, something well, first off, it was internal tool only. So like it didn't have to look nice. It can have a lot of caveats because it's like there's going to be like one of these set up and you can just talk to the guy who's using it. This is not something that's going out to talk to customers. But even then though, when you're starting a totally new project that, doesn't have a lot of like dependencies or anything. It's just, I guess the term earlier was a greenfield project. You can move very quickly. And I think it's more of the concept of like, startups going like these little small teams, building something from scratch really fast. And wow, how do they do that? So much of software development, of the difficulty of software development and why things take a while and why things are hard, is making stuff work with the existing systems. So like some of the features I've made that my team has worked on, risk score. Previous to that was logical location, or also known as sites and systems, which at a high level, it's like, oh, it's just a tree structure for representing things. Easy. And yeah, like, we were able to make a basic prototype in a pretty short time. The hard part is like the real software development time and work and difficulty is, okay, now we need this to talk to all these different things that were made way before this was even a concept. And specifically when A changes, we want B to happen, but, the way for those to talk to each other doesn't exist, or it exists in a completely different way, and it's got these weird side effects, so we have to fix all those. You also need to do it all while not breaking anything. So I guess just in terms of like, if you ever ask yourself, why is this application do this? Would it be so hard for them to, change this or that? It's like, maybe it is an easy thing, but a lot of the time the difficulty is like, oh, that's because it's been around for a while and it needs to talk to a lot of things, and it was not originally made with that in mind. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the memes that goes around there. It's like no installed user base.
Yep.
Yeah, that does make it a little bit difficult out there because we do have a lot of different components out there that talk in amongst each other. So there's a lot of kind of normalization that goes on in the background as well.
Yep. We try and make sure we support all of our current customers as well as adding new functionality. Yep. So it has been almost 30 to 45 minutes here. Mm-hmm. I feel like we're at a logical point, but I also feel like we have another thing that we should pitch to Ken for future podcasts. Mm-hmm. And that is we should do like postmortems of new features when we bring them out. A little bit of an interview talking about the story behind it, a little bit of the development experience. We'll keep it to mostly positive. But I think that this hearing from the development team that added the feature can really add an interesting additional aspect. And part of the Verve culture is this whole low ego, say it how it is, be open to conversations, be open to discussion. That might be a really good thing for us to share with our audience here. So that might be something interesting for the future.
And I think it's always interesting for like all of our, current customers or, new could-be customers or anything like that. Give them a little bit of that inside baseball of what's going on out there.
Yep.
And I know we've also come up with different topics out there as well.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
What's the latest in the OT space? There is a lot of noise out there too. So we try to keep it, casual and not, so marketing that it's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Trying to keep it real, right?
I heard or I read an article recently that was software developers hate marketing, right? People that are in the programming world. I am the fastest person to be like, okay, I just heard the word synergy. I am no longer going to even listen to this video. It sounded like an interesting topic, but no, it's just...
I'm just automatically turned off.
So being able to hear it from the voices of the developers, and Rick, we're sorry if we don't use all the proper, marketing and sales speak here, but being able to hear it from the voice of the developer to talk about it might be a good way to understand the reality of what we do. and that could be really cool.
Yeah.
So,
I don't hate marketing. I appreciate what they do because I understand the necessity of marketing. I have no taste for it myself. I appreciate that there are people who do, so I don't have to do that kind of thing.
Absolutely. So,
And we've got some great marketing folks too. They're awesome.
don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say anything bad about anybody. It's just that when I get if I'm watching a video that's like, this is a great new feature, I'm like, yeah, I want to learn about this feature. But then all of a sudden the marketing speak comes up and I'm just, oh my goodness.
It's like one of these again.
I'm just remembering the Oregon company. The first big project I worked on was adding a weight sensor to the XPS, and so they can track organ weight over time. What they're specifically looking for is if the weight is increasing, then that is a sign of it taking on liquid. It's called edema, so fluid in the lungs, bad. They want to instead see the weight either stay the same or go down. But anyway, this thing would need to be plugged into the device because the device was originally made not with support for that. And we did just like here, we did an annual get everybody together thing, but that wasn't just dev, it was the whole company. And was talking to one of the sales or marketing people, I'm not sure if there was difference, and she was talking about it being wireless. And I was like, what are you talking about? Wireless? She's like, yeah, I was told it's gonna, it's not gonna have wires. It's just gonna work. I was like, well, no, that's not what's gonna happen. I don't know who you told you that. Definitely wasn't me. So I think it's good. It's important to have understanding marketing people. I've heard, we've all heard horror stories of the marketing completely over promising something and that I guess the devs are held to, and that was not the case then. It was more someone messed up.
Oh, yeah. So I need to be on the side of the marketing people a little bit here. I have been in more than one conversation where a well-meaning but misunderstanding engineer has said, oh, yeah, I'll have that done in a week.
Famous last words.
And in the mind of the engineer, it might actually have been accurate. But quite often that engineer is thinking, I'll have a proof of concept done in a week, or I can get it working on my desk in a week, or any of these things. And so they're telling the truth as far as they're concerned, but it is so far from the truth as far as our customers are concerned. Now, this was not at Verve.
Yeah, it works on my machine.
Yeah, it works on my machine. So I have to really admire the sales and marketing team that have dealt with that scenario, and maybe we should try and get some in on here to tell
plug for Sally and Megan. We love you guys. We really do.
How many times have they heard it'll be done in a week, and they're like, really? I'm not sure. So
done in a week. Which week?
Yeah. And how many words? How many dones is that? Is that done or done or done? And each one of those is the start of a crazy song, but also each one of those is like bench tested and verified and validated, and how many of those dones is that week? But anyway, so I'm going to wrap it here. I think we've had a great conversation. We've wandered over all sorts of awesome topics. Richard, thank you so much for joining us at this one.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun. Maybe the little bit more background noise than we normally have during our talks. If you were hearing sirens, those were not for us. We are on a major road here in Madison. Actually, if you get up onto the roof of the building here, you can look and see the Capitol, which is pretty cool.
No better way to start your morning than crossing 8 lanes of traffic.
A little bit of pre-meeting Frogger. You might have also heard jets here in Madison. They have the F-35s that fly around occasionally. I didn't hear any today, but there's lots of fun here. But
now, would that be OT or IT?
I have no idea. But once again, thank you for joining us from the Verve Dev Gathering here in Madison, Wisconsin, and hopefully we'll be able to have OT after hours at the next one.
So,
Lovely. Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, thank you.
thank you again for having me. It's very nice.
And that is it for this month. Thank you again for listening out there. You have been listening to OT After Hours, a podcast about industrial cybersecurity, why it matters, and all the challenges that it presents. Please share our episodes with your friends and family, colleagues, and anyone else you think would be interested in industrial cybersecurity. And please consider leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or wherever you get your podcasts. This podcast has been produced by me, Kenneth Cooley. Our opening and closing music is by the ever so talented Octo Sound. Look them up if you need some music for a podcast or a video. And again, thank you out there for listening. Big thanks to Lance for recording. Thank you, Tyler and Richard, for taking part in the discussion. We will see you all next month.
Ken, your silence is starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.